Hello, everyone. Welcome to Wei and Kathy Show. I'm your host, Wei Fang. And this week, we know that U.S. Supreme Court have 5 major decisions to make. And yesterday, they made a decision about the New York gun law that put the discretion of whether one can obtain a license to conceal carry, into the hands of the police. And the Supreme Court said no. That's unconstitutional. That was the big decision that they made yesterday. And today, well, as you all know, they overruled Roe v. Wade. And the 49-year-old precedent was reversed today. That's a big issue. And then there are 3 other major issues still waiting for the Supreme Court to make a decision on. So today we'll be zooming into today's Supreme Court decision and see what's the consequence of that and what is the essence of this decision change. So before we start today's program, please remember to click the like and the subscription. Make sure you are still subscribed. And Kathy, is not with me, as you can apparently tell. And where is she? Okay, so Tony, can you just play the video one, and let's see some scenery here. All right, so basically, as you can see, Kathy's riding with her co-workers. This is in the state of Colorado. So I was talking to her just a moment ago, and she keeps saying that this is so beautiful. This is so beautiful. America is so beautiful. Okay, so this is the Great Plain of Colorado. Right, she's driving through about 30-second type of view. And then next, let's move on, Tony. Let's move on to the video 2. This is another, the Great Plain. Okay, you see a big sky, and and you see the cloud, the blue sky, the white cloud, and you see the plain, and she just cannot help just keep saying that this is so beautiful, breathtakingly beautiful. Then she mentioned about the Colorado River that's running along the highway. Oh, I didn't get to see it. Okay, I'm sitting here in my little studio and do the program here, but that's where she is. Okay, and she also took some photo along the way of the gas price. Everywhere she went, in front of the gas station, the price tag for the gas, she would take a photo, and she's collecting those records. And after she arrived in New York, she will be joining my show and then show you what she collected. So today she was very ecstatic. She said, well, you know what? I found the first under $5 gas price. How about you? What's the gas price around you? Well, in California, Elon Musk the other day posted in front of the 7-Eleven store. The gas price was $7.11, and we even ran into $8 and $9 in San Francisco. This is where we are. Okay, but anyways, it seems that Kathy's having a good time, and so we'll be waiting for her to arrive and join this show and bring you all the exciting update that she has. All right, so let's get back to today's topic. I think everybody knows, right? This is people on the May 2nd. If you still remember, there was this leaked document, which is the preliminary ruling by the Supreme Court on the Mississippi case, the Dobbs versus Jackson case, the ruling of which could, overturn Roe v. Wade. And then the preliminary ruling was leaked out and went to Politico rather than any other, media. Politico is the leftist media. And then there was the fallout is people went to protest and circle the house of our Supreme Court justices. And then apparently they faced great pressure. So nobody knows that what would be the final ruling. Okay, the country is holding its breath until this morning. Okay, they made the ruling. Not only is the same as the preliminary ruling, they went even further. Okay, so let's talk about the case. All right, as I said, the case itself is called the Dobbs versus Jackson Women's Health Organization, and that it concerns a law enacted in 2018 by the Republican-dominated Mississippi legislature that banned abortion if the probable gestational age of the unborn human was determined to be more than 15 weeks. So there was this 6-3 ruling, okay, by the Supreme Court, and recognizing Mississippi State's 15-week is being constitutional, okay. But it went beyond that. Okay, at that time they lost one vote. They lost the vote from the Chief Justice John Roberts. But anyway, that's still 5-4. And then this further decision declared Roe v. Wade as unconstitutional. Okay, it is overturned. Not only that, they also overturned the Planned Parenthood versus Casey, which is a 1992 decision that affirmed Roe v. Wade ruling. Okay, and then in the opinion, Supreme Court Justice Alito wrote as such. Let's hear him out. For the first 185 years after the adoption of the Constitution, namely 1789 to 1973, where the Roe v. Wade ruling happened, each state was permitted to address this issue in accordance with the views of its citizens. Then in 1973, the court decided Roe v. Wade. And even though the Constitution makes no mention of abortion, the court held that it confirms a broad right to obtain one. Okay, as you can understand, Alito said that then Supreme Court simply make a decision that abortion is a constitutional right. And Alito went on and said, far from bringing about a national settlement of the abortion issue, Roe and the Casey case, okay, both have inflamed the debate and deepened division. It's time to heed the Constitution and return the issue of abortion to the people's elected representatives. Okay, so if we just dial back, right? Let's dial back to 1972 when the Roe v. Wade case was entered the Supreme Court, and in 1973 the ruling was done, right? And basically the then Supreme Court quote the 14th Amendment, okay, the due process clause. The due process clause guarantees the due process of law before the government, so the government cannot deprive someone's life, liberty, and property. Okay, so it looks like pretty very innocuous, even a righteous clause, right? Due process clause. However, it is indeed is dubious. I'll explain a bit later. The second issue is the Supreme Court just made abortion a women's right, women's privacy. And it virtually declared that as a constitutional right. And since there is this due process clause, the state government cannot deprive someone of life, liberty, or property. And abortion is one type of liberty. Okay, the logic goes like that. So they made the ruling on the Roe v. Wade, and so no state can pass any law to limit abortion. Okay, because the due process clause. Okay, government cannot deprive someone's liberty. In this case, cannot deprive someone's abortion right to abortion. But there are two issues here. Okay, the first, as you know, I think I'm probably talking about the obvious here, but I think it's still good to review this, and I do want to see your opinion. Okay, as you see how I share my observation and my research, and please type up your feedback to see how you think about that. So America is a republic, right? Republic means that we manage our public affairs through elected officials, and then the sovereignty power is with the people. And how is that reflected? Because through electing our city council member and county supervisors, state assemblymen, and the congressmen and the senators, and so on and so forth, right? And in terms of then we wrote a constitution, and according to the constitution, we create a federal government, and then we delegate part of the power to the federal government, including the Supreme Court. And the Constitution clearly said it's enumerated right, only 21 of them. Except those 21 rights, the federal government has no other rights. All the rights are reserved for each state and the people. This is the content, the language of the amendment, the 9th Amendment and the 10th Amendment. So federal government or the high court is not the master of this country. They are the servant that we give the job to. And the people has the sovereignty power of this country. But in this very case, in this Roe v. Wade case, first they quoted the 14th Amendment. Actually, the constitutional experts said the 14th Amendment is very dubious, okay? It is hastily passed and created a lot of problem for later time. At that time, it was 1988, right? It was past the Civil War. And then, okay, the southern state lost the war. They have to accept the emancipation of the slave. And then they lost that, but they still mistreated, black people. Okay, deny their liberty in many places. Because of that, then Congress passed this 14th Amendment, and the idea is targeting those, southern states who are not honoring the liberty of the black people, who are no longer the slaves anymore. But however, it's just it does have this due process clause, which basically saying that the state government cannot deprive people's right without a due process. And but think about that. That's kind of a conflict with the Amendment 9th and the 10th and the 9th, right? Which say, except all the power we delegate to the state, federal government, all the power is with the state. So in another way, the power with the federal government is limited. The power with the state is unlimited. Okay, because state is the same as the people. The people are with the state, so whatever they decide to do, they can do it. They have unlimited power. And then in this case, in the 1973, the Supreme Court simply decide. They just decide or declare or they think or they conclude that abortion is a human right. It's a constitutional right. Okay? And then because of this 14th Amendment, which is hastily passed due process, the due process clause, then nobody can take that right away. So in that sense, Roe v. Wade's ruling established that no state can pass any restriction on the abortion because, as I said, that's a constitutional right. Okay, so that's where we come from, right? So there are two problems. Okay, the first, the 14th Amendment is indeed a conflict with the 9th and the 10th. Okay, but that's not the key issue because if there's life, liberty, and property, those concepts, there's no different understanding of them, there's no issue. Okay, but here, that's the second issue is the Supreme Court increasingly start to take things really into their own hands, according to their, notion, their own understanding, their own recognition, their own thought. They will decide, same-sex marriage is a constitutional right, abortion is a constitutional right. In the future, maybe, transgender women can go to the transgender men can go to the women's restroom, and then that can be recognized as a constitutional right. Could they do that? They have no power. Okay, they are the servant of our people. People has the sovereignty power. Okay, so whether people would believe an abortion is legal or not, people elect their representative and decide on that in each state. Okay, and then the Supreme Court really is in no position to take those into their hands and make a decision and through the 14th Amendment and push this to nationwide. Okay, so that's the fallacy here. And so how many people understand this? I read from a poll that only 65% of Americans think that reversal of the Roe v. Wade means take away the choice of abortion, right? That's not the case. It's basically saying the Supreme Court doesn't want to meddle with this matter. It's not our job. Return this power, return this decision to each state. Each state, please just make your own decision. That's the essence of it. But as high as 65% of people, American people, don't understand that. So that's why I think, again, we need to reiterate that and making sure we're clear about the nature of this reversal. So what's the consequence? What's the consequence of today's ruling? The first is there are 20 states who are waiting. The 20 states are waiting for this ruling, including 13 states. They have this is called a trigger law, or so-called trigger laws. So the trigger law would ban or strictly limit abortion, and then they will become active upon the reversal of the Roe v. Wade happened. And then, so starting tomorrow, in this 13th state, those trigger law will become the real law. And what are they? Let me just read a few. I don't have the complete list, but like Alabama, Arkansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, Missouri, Oklahoma, South Dakota, Utah, and Wisconsin. Okay, so in those states, what do you do if you wanted to get abortion? Either you elect a new official that can speak for you, or you just travel to another state, or you move to another state. Okay, and then you choose where you want to live. Each state attract different people, and then all 50 states are like 50 labs. Okay, and they go their own path, and then people will compare, and they're gonna learn from each other. At a certain point, they may realize, oh, their path seems to be better, and we are in the mess now. Let's learn from them. So America has a way to just rectify itself. That's the very design of the framers back then. Okay, and then pretty much the reversal of the Roe v. Wade just return that right of experiment with each state. The second consequence is, does it stop here? This is the liberal people are very, very worried today. They're saying that, they said they won't be reversing Roe v. Wade just 3 years ago when we were just, having those hearings for those Supreme Court justice candidates. And now they did it. What about, down the road? So actually, Justice Alito said the following. He said, we emphasize that our decision concerns the constitutional right to abortion and no other right. And Justice Thomas, he wrote that it was strictly true that the majority opinion addressed only abortion, but he said its logic required the court to reconsider decisions about contraception, gay sex, and same-sex marriage. Okay, he said that we have a duty to correct the error established in this precedence. So more things could happen, right? And the other, follow-up matter is President Biden actually spoke today, right after the ruling, and he urged Congress to restore the protection of Roe v. Wade, just pass a law to protect Roe v. Wade. If the Congress does that, that's the right way to do. Because Congress are elected by the people, and people delegate this job to them. If they are able to, they can pass a law to make abortion a right of the people. Okay, but they cannot just ask the Supreme Court to make a ruling and make the decision for the entire nation. However, with this political situation today, we all know that Congress will not be able to pass a law to protect the Roe v. Wade ruling or the right given by the Roe v. Wade, and Biden also said everyone, no matter how deeply they care about this decision, to keep all protests peaceful. Well, that's what this country is holding its breath for. Okay, as of now, as I do in the program, I'm frequently switch back to the news report on New York or any other places to see whether there would be any violence. If there is, chances are it's going to happen tonight or happen over the weekend. So that's the biggest, chance, or the risky time that this such thing could happen. I don't know how you think. Would you expect a big riot or just violence and things like that? I hope not. I sure hope not. And basically, this ruling make the issue final. There's no way to turn this back again. So based upon that, probably the country will not have enter another mess because there's nothing to win. But we'll see. We'll see what will happen. Okay, so the last I want to talk about how this reversal was possible, right? Just remember when Kavanaugh and Justice Kavanaugh and Gorsuch was being questioned during the Senate hearing, and those senators, with no doubt, they asked them about the Roe v. Wade. Are you going to reverse that? And their answer, if you remember, they were quite, how to say, quite firm about like a respecting precedent and things like that. A 50-year-old tradition that has a reason to stay, things like that. So you would think that they did not have that intention. Probably they don't. They did not. Okay, but there's this third justice appointed by President Trump, and Amy Coney Barrett, and she actually was outspoken, against abortion. So after she joined, you got the 6-3 majority. I think there's a few reasons. Okay, in my understanding, first is why this decision was made. First, over the time, the constitutional justice, I would call them constitutional justices, they come to realize we made a mistake, or this court had made a mistake in 1973. We really were in no decision, in no position to declare abortion is constitutional rights. Okay, so over the time, as they start that thing, when do they stop? What's the next right? What's the third right? What's the fourth right? And today it's been happening. Okay, so first, they do realize that legally they should not make that decision back then in 1973. The second, because of this new justice, especially Justice Barrett, who has been very vocal, and about the abortion, the Roe v. Wade ruling problem, and that probably gives them some, some cover. You got a lady justice who's leading on this. Other people follow along. Lower the difficulty. I'm really just guessing here. Okay, I don't have the information, exact information. And but the third one is indeed there is this clear majority. They are able to make a decision if they all agree to. So that's what they did. Yeah, that's what they did. So 3 years ago, it looks like a mission impossible become a mission accomplished today. So many people owe their thanks to former President Donald J. Trump for nominating the 3 conservative justices. And actually, Jim Jordan of Ohio, the representative, he declared on the House floor today, he said this: God bless the United States Supreme Court, and God bless President Trump for the people he selected for our highest court. All right. So going forward, we still have 3 cases, right? 5 major decisions. The gun ruling was done yesterday. Today's Roe v. Wade. The third one is the high school coach, Joseph Kennedy of Washington, lost his job due to his insisting on reciting the prayers with his team after each game. Okay, he took that to the Supreme Court, and they took it. So we're waiting for that ruling. Another one is Trump's stay in Mexico policy was rescinded by Biden, and whether that will stand or not, that's in the hand of the Supreme Court now. And the third one is the West Virginia versus EPA, the Environmental Protection Act. Okay, it has to do with whether the government agency like EPA could unilaterally change the national power grid or other infrastructure for the reason of dealing with climate change. Okay, if Biden lost there, he would have a lot of difficulty implementing his, climate change related action. So that's a very big deal to Biden. Again, so after Roe v. Wade, the country is still holding its breath. First, to see whether there will be any, violence or riot. The second, what would be the decision of the High Court on these 3 remaining big issues? All right, so let's keep a close eyes on what's going to happen, and those issues all has a lot to do with our country down the road. Okay, that's all I have to say, to you today. And thank you for staying with us. And Kathy will be joining us next Monday, I would say. And I'm not sure. Maybe Wednesday. So she's traveling. It's a 5-day drive. And I sure wish they have a good time and they can drive safe. And thank you for staying with me tonight. And have a good night. I'll see you on next Monday. Have a great weekend. Take care, folks.